Hello, and welcome to the SheGulls podcast. That's right, we are back again, live on YouTube, powered as always by Albion Obsessed. We are the one and only podcast dedicated to Brighton Hove Albion women's football team. I'm your host, Duncan. I'm joined today by fellow Albion fans, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello, Duncan.
By Abby. Hello, Abby.
Hello, Duncan.
And by Claire. Hello, Claire.
Hello.
And as always, we are joined by our producer, Joe, who will be backstage pressing all the right buttons in all the right places. And yes, we're here, back once again.
Like
I'm
a renegade master.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. We've got several commenters already. I mean, this is excellent.
What's
I'm
going
gonna
on?
be honest with you. It's all kicking right off from the get-go. So that's fantastic. We will get to your questions if you have any, or comments. You're welcome. If I accidentally start talking out of my backside, or deliberately start talking out of my backside, please do comment and let me know and tell me what I've said that's wrong. We want to hear your opinions. We want to hear your voices, in a literal sense, of course, not your actual voices. Yeah, I mean, we had a game on the weekend. I think we might as well crack straight on with that news. And we came back from an away trip with 3 points. Huzzah!
Yay!
Only happened once this season, I believe, against London City Lionesses. Not all that long ago in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
We were thinking, musing amongst ourselves while we were waiting for the team to arrive, what our previous away win was before London City Lionesses, and I think we were right in saying that it was actually Everton away last season.
I think so.
Yeah.
So it's a happy hunting ground up there, although albeit in a different environment from Walton Hall Park.
It was warmer at Walton Hall Park.
It was. It was also in the daytime at Walton Hall Park. So
There was ice cream.
And the summer, I believe, it wasn't near at the end of the season.
I think it was. I think you're right. Yeah, it was. It was
chilly.
bitterly cold up there. But we had a warm welcome, so that was nice. We can come to that as we go on. But I think let's crack on. Let's talk about the game itself. As I say, 1-0, a goal by Jelena Cankovic. Sort of midway through the first half, and as has not been very common for us recently, we actually managed to go 1-0 up and hold on for the rest of the game. I think by and large we did try and score another goal, maybe excepting the last sort of 15-20 minutes where it did feel like we sort of battened down the hatches. But yes, Charlie quite rightly correcting me there. 41 minutes it was for Jelena. There we go. So more towards the end of the first half, a bit like in the Nottingham Forest game. Good to get in there before half time. But what didn't happen was what happened after half time against Aston Villa, which was we came out and had a few moments of madness and lost 2-1. So that's a positive. I am going to start with Ben on this one because he was the only one of us not actually in attendance at Goodison Park. So he will have had the best view because we were behind the goal. Which had its moments, not down our end, but it had its moments. So Ben, your thoughts on the Everton game, watching it on the telebox or the computer, whatever it was that you were perusing to take the game. What did you think?
Funny enough, I don't actually have Sky, so I was watching it on the radio. It was broadcast on Radio Sussex. But I have watched it since because it's now on YouTube. But yeah, I think much as we expected, really. They parked the bus, tried to get us in transition, as they say, and for the most part, they failed. I think Tony Payne was a bit of a pain at times, but I think once they sort of got their head round on how to deal with her, there wasn't really a lot they had coming forward. And yeah, I mean, it was good goal, really some really good sort of nice high pressing going on sort of throughout. And then Kiko catches them in possession, pulls it back. Jelena Cankovic is always the coolest cucumber in the 6-yard box and wallop. And yeah, like you say, we held them off. A couple of squeaky moments like you always get when it's just 1-0, so it would have been nice to get more than 1-0. But yeah, I mean, I think we were playing some really nice football. And it's a real shame actually that it sort of kind of still lacks that forward focus, because there was some really, really nice passing, and they were really making Everton players chase the ball, especially in the first half. First half hour, really, Everton hardly got a go. So yeah, it was good. I think, very professional performance. Got one more than them. Might have been nice to have got one more than them, but yeah, just tick, job done, lovely.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously, we're going to look at the performance in, more detail, of course, but I think you can't really at the moment say more than a clean sheet away from home and 3 points. We've spoken before about how we want to see a performance, but, at the end of the day, I think in games like this, you take the 3 points over the performance any day of the week.
Yeah.
Particularly the way it's kind of affected the table as well, bumping us up from 8th to 6th. We could have played absolutely brilliantly, drawn, and ended up still stuck in 8th. So, it was a really important 3 points. Claire, what did you make of it all, sat behind the goal with us there?
Well, I mean, I loved it. Like you say, I think at this point, a win's a win, isn't it? It doesn't really matter how it comes about. I don't care if that goal's coming off the backside of somebody or it's a worldie from Ollislagers. I don't care how it goes in. Just get the goal and then defend it and get the points. That's all that really matters to me. Having travelled all the way up there, I want to see the win. Performance-wise, I mean, it wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. I thought we did pretty well. I thought we were on top for most of the game. I looked at the stats on the BBC and I don't recall Everton having that much. 50-something%. I'm just like, no, they didn't have that enough possession. We had to call for that, I'm sure of it. So yeah, I think it was a professional job. I think they went up there. We know we've got no striker. We know that getting a goal is a difficult one, and if we get one, we've got to, really work for it, as well as really protect it. And I think they did that. I think they did exactly what they needed to do. They all worked their socks off, and and we got those points at the end of the day. And like you say, it was a massive weekend for us. Not just our result, but every other result seemed to go in our favour. Spurs losing to Liverpool. I mean, that's just like, thank you very much. That's now put us from being well out of 5th to being potentially able to get 4th again. Yes, it needs a few results to go our way, but when the likes of Arsenal are picking up points at Chelsea and Liverpool picking up points at Spurs, and obviously we expected the 2 Manchester clubs to do their bit and beat the clubs they were playing, and that's just opened the door for us to get back up the league, like you say, back into 6th, possibility of moving up a bit further now. Beat LCL at the weekend, and we create a bigger gap between us and those below us. It was a must-win. It was an absolute must-win game, and they did it.
Yeah, and we obviously, we've spoken about a striker many times before. It almost feels like as we go into the last week of the transfer window, even just kind of leaping up to 6th is something you can really sort of dangle out there as a bit of a carrot to some players and say, look, all being equal, we are 6th. We're in the hunt for 5th. Who knows? We could even get 4th. But we need a player like you to come in and kind of take us to that next level.
I think, like Ben said, I think had we had a striker that could nick a goal, we probably would have won that 3 or 4-0 on Friday night.
Yeah, I think so.
We were creating chances. We just didn't have anyone other than Yeli to put the ball in the back of the net. And I think as well, she has proven these last 2 games how much we need experienced player in that squad. She has made the difference in that squad the last 2 games.
It almost makes the mouth water if we can actually get Yele, Fran, and obviously Maisie has been fit the whole season, but I don't know how often she's played with both Fran and Yele. It can only been a couple of matches tops, I would have thought. So it really makes you sort of wonder if we'd had those 3 long term in the middle, how well we would have done against some of these teams where we, either went ahead and then ended up kind of folding under the pressure, or just never quite, got the ball rolling in the first place. So, it shoulda, woulda, coulda. And as Dario always says, you lose a player for a few games in the WSL, and that's about a quarter of your season gone or half your season gone sometimes. So he's all won for more games, and I think we all are too. Abby, what would you sort of say about the defensive performance? Because although the attacking performance was a little bit off kilter at times, obviously we got the goal, that's the most important thing, but what can you say about like the defense and another clean sheet?
I think we were lucky in some places. I mean, I've just been sort of re-looking at the highlights, and yes, Chia makes a brilliant save, but if you go back a couple of seconds, she also gave the ball away, necessitating her to make that save. So I think there's still elements that we need to improve on, but I think they are really starting to gel. I think we all sat there going, why is Caitlin not starting? And that is, a question that we are yet to have an answer to. But it is, I think, the second week or the second game in a row that we've had the same back four, and it started to show. I thought they looked a lot more competent this time, really overlapping and really working well. So I think they're really starting to sort of come into their own. I don't know why Caitlin's not starting. A couple of times I think we could have used her height. I think it was very, very good. They're obviously getting there. But it's with Chia tootling off to the WAFCON, then it's going to change again. So I'm glad we got the clean sheet while we could.
Yeah, I must admit, like you say, there were a couple of instances where you sort of felt if they'd have had a real sort of goal scoring striker, they may have got on the end of one or two as well. So I think it turned into sort of a chess match by necessity almost, because it was just who was going to break the deadlock, if anyone, and it almost felt like whoever did was probably going to win the game by hook or by crook, just because it was a bit of a stalemate at times, and that's not to say there weren't chances, there weren't shots, but there was sort of few and far between, and some of them, Everton's probably best chances, quote unquote, were more like balls across the box, which would have been a goal if there'd have been a player standing there from Everton, really.
Yeah.
I think there was a good block by, I'm forgetting, it might have been, I'm thinking, who would it have been? It was one of our defenders basically got in front of the Everton player. I think it was one of the Japanese Everton players, just as they were about to sort of go for the ball, and they sort of got their body in between the attacker and the ball, and it kind of went past them all. And that's obviously,
that would have been Charlie.
Yeah, I think it probably was Charlie. Yeah. And when things are going for you, that's what happens, or you're in the right position. Part of that is learning the position of, especially with Charlie being a centre back, learning that position and when to be in the box and everything. But also there were a couple where it was just, sheer luck to a certain extent that one of their players didn't make a run or didn't stay where they were stood before, or whatever it was. And I did think we were very challenged by the pace of Payne.
Yeah.
I don't think Marissa had a bad game, to be brutally honest with you. I said this in my review. I don't think it was almost a down on Marissa that she got around her a couple of times, because that is Tony Payne's MO, really. She is 99% pace, and she can put a good ball across. She's not a great goal scorer, but she can get an assist, purely based on her speed almost. I wonder if in some ways playing against Deanne Rose the week before against Nottingham Forest might have helped us out a little bit. Quite a similar player, quite reliant on her pace. And the more we played, the more I felt like Marissa was starting to realise what Tony Payne was doing, and she was able to kind of stop it. And I think she dispossessed her once by standing her ground. There was another one I think she blocked for a corner, whereas the earlier balls that were actually finding, the middle of the box.
A lot of the time as well, that Manu and Mo were working really well together on the left there. Because the ball, Tony Payne was pretty much their only outlet.
Yeah, she really was, yeah.
Just sort of hoofing it up there. And if she could chase it, or if she could sort of knock it past you and then out sprint you, then she was getting to the byline, putting those crosses in. But so she was beating Mo for pace, but Manu was kind of coming. They were sort of pincering her in a way, sort of Mo would be sort of shepherding her one way, and then Manny would sort of intercept and sort of take the ball or whatever. And I think, you know, and then quite often they dropped off her a bit, so she had to sort of face them and try and get past them, and that, you know, that's not her thing either. So, you know, so I think, yeah, they. And then there was that incident, as Abby alluded to, where Chia forgot that she wasn't playing for Nigeria today, passed it to her. But then I think Tony Payne thought she was playing for Nigeria as well, so gave Chia a bit of easy saving practice. So that was nice for both of them, I thought. So yeah, I think as the game wore on, they got more and more wise to how to deal with Tony Payne, and then once they sorted that out, there wasn't really much else Everton could do. When there was that one sort of shot they had really late on, Mas Pacheco got round the side, Chia made a really, really good save, and that really came about because the ball was loose in the box and Moeka sort of tried to clear it but just hit Nadina with it, and it sort of rolled into Pacheco's path, and yeah, good shot but really good save. So yeah, I think the defence on the whole had a really, really good game. Yeah, Moeka was getting to a lot of the high stuff and things, and dealing with whoever the other striker was. And the two lefties were basically just, after a while, just really got to grips with Tony Payne. And Charlie, actually, that I think had the best game she's had for a long time. You know, again, it was one of those. You know, I don't remember there being many 33s in football, but suddenly, the sort of midway through the second half, it was Charlie against Mas Pacheco in this 33 on 33, and our 33 once again just had the best of her, and then kept finding herself in so much space and putting some really good balls in and things. And yeah, it was great from Charlie, I thought.
Yeah, I was just looking up the stats there about the clean sheets, because I was interested just to see how many clean sheets we've had. That's our fourth one this season. We actually only have 4 in the entirety of last season. And Chia's been in goal for all 4 of them. So I don't think there's any coincidence there. You know, that's a massive improvement. I think, actually, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've got a feeling I predicted something like 6 clean sheets as one of my bold predictions. I'm feeling quite good about
the clean sheet thing. I don't remember what the number was, but
I can't. Maybe I went higher. Maybe I said 8. That might have been a bit ambitious.
No, but yeah, I think it's very clear that defensively we are so much better this season than we've been. It is just a shame that we didn't sort that striker position out at the beginning of the season, because I think we would have had probably another 4 or 5 points on the board by now. We'd be cruising it, and you know, we'd be enjoying the season again. So yeah, fingers crossed that they sort that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Chris Roberts was saying that in the press conference, obviously he got a couple of questions regarding sort of new recruits, and he sort of alluded to the fact that they'll probably need to get the Everton game out of the way, and then it would kind of he'd be able to sit down with the recruitment team in, you know, this week coming. So hopefully we'll hear some more news there. But it is just to sort of assuage any fears like the fans might have. It is done sort of by a recruitment committee, and that involves lots of other people. So it's not, because Dario's gone, doesn't mean that it's suddenly, you know, going to stop and we're going to miss out on players or anything. It is all done by several different people in agreement. I'm sure Dario will have sign off, and obviously Chris Roberts is involved in his absence. But you know, everything hasn't ground to a halt in that regard, shall we say, just because of, you know, obviously what Dario's dealing with. So that's something interesting. I want to talk a little bit, Ben, maybe you could come in on this. What did you think of sort of the midfield performance? Because when I was writing my recap, I couldn't really find much to say about the kind of midfield performance. But obviously the ball was in the midfield quite a lot, but it was almost like they were almost, I think both teams almost sort of nullified each other. It felt like, because they were largely, it felt kind of a bit invisible on either side. So that's probably completely wrong. So please do correct me. But yeah, what did you think of the sort of midfield performance?
I suppose it depends on who you classify as the midfield, because they were kind of there. It was very fluid. I mean, Yelly Jankovic obviously is the Energizer Bunny, so she was kind of everywhere all at once kind of thing. Rosa is kind of the left winger, but actually was kind of all over the place. Maisie was all over the place again, but then Charlie had more passes than Maisie, and actually a better passing accuracy rate. But so and whereas and again Nadina Nordam was kind of what is she? Is she a number 10? Is she a number 9 sometimes? She was kind of. So I think you're right. They kind of cancelled each other out in a way, but more in the fact that I don't know. They just did their job. It wasn't hugely spectacular from anybody, but everybody was really good. Although again, I mean, I think Nadine is a bit of a Duracell bunny if Yellow's the Energizer one, because she kind of covers pretty much every blade of grass as well. And again, and Rosa had a better game than she's had the last few weeks as well. I think maybe she got sort of more space to do things and stuff. And I think we were pressing so high and making them run around so much, and particularly in the sort of first half hour. So the sort of triangular passing between them was just really, really good at just making the Everton players run about so much. So yeah, it was you couldn't really put your finger on anyone having a superb game, but nobody really did anything wrong. That's that sort of thing. It was just again just solid, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm probably being a bit harsh on them to a certain extent. I think that's you've hit the nail on the head. Is that they were sort of like a perfectly functional unit, probably with the exception of Yele, if you count her as a midfielder. But our passing did seem a bit better. There weren't kind of quite so many times where you put your hand to your face thinking, who was that to? Like we've had the last few games, it felt a little bit tighter, a little bit more compact, and the sort of short passes seem to be more accurate and coming off a lot better. So whether that's just kind of getting Yellow bedded back in and kind of the space that she creates. I know we're kind of getting some comments on the feed, talking about Yellow and what she adds to the game. And I think that is one thing she does add. Is her movement, getting into space and also making space for other people to work within, dragging players out of position and things like that. And that's, I also think that's something Fran does very well, and that's why I think it's been difficult for us, not to have both of them on the pitch at the same time, because you feel like, especially given the fact they used to play together at Chelsea, they would have kind of that dynamic to be able to, especially against teams like Everton, no disrespect to them. They are not a million miles worse than we are. It's just, circumstances. And, I
think with Everton, it's a sort of ambition thing. Because actually, I mean, it's quite weird. You look at the stats from the game, they actually had a slightly higher XG than us. And they've got 570 passes to our 406 kind of thing, which is kind of almost half as many again. But it's what you do with it. We always used to sort of say it's no good having sort of 25 passes if they're all across the defence. And I think it's, I think part of the problem that Everton fans have probably got with Brian Sorensen is that they're losing, but they're losing so negatively. They're playing for, like they did against Chelsea, which is basically park the bus, soak up the pressure, rope-a-dope the opposition, and then catch them on the break, which was successful against Chelsea, but wasn't against us and hasn't been pretty much against anybody else this season. And so, if you go out on all guns blazing and go down in a blaze of glory and lose 4-1 or 6-2 or whatever, you feel we should be winning these games, but at least you've watched a game of football. Whereas Brian Sorensen's putting out such negative teams and playing such negative football and then losing. Whereas we, at least, when we lose, like I said, we lose well, if you know what I mean. We play well, we play ambitiously, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Whereas Everton for the last few years, have basically just gone out with this sort of low block and just tried to sort of grind out 1-0s. And
to be honest with you, I slightly I agree with the majority. I slightly disagree, just because I think they have the same problem as we do, in that they don't have a striker.
That's true.
They had Kelly Gargo, and she's decided basically she doesn't want to be there anymore, which is her prerogative. But they actually had, a French international striker. It's just that they're not playing well enough for her to kind of want to stay, and that's obviously their own issue. But I think watching that game, I thought it was quite an even game. I think the difference was we scored and they didn't. We had a little bit more quality, perhaps, to be able to get a goal from elsewhere that they didn't have. But I think, as people have mentioned, as some commenters have mentioned, had they have had someone to just kick the ball over the line from the 6-yard box, it could have been 1-1, and then we'd be having a very different conversation. So I mean, it shoulda, woulda, coulda at the end of the day. But I do feel a little bit sorry for them, because I sort of think, and we shouldn't also forget that Katja Snoys, who is a decent enough striker but seems to be very good against us, is out injured as well. So she's a bit, some teams we have a bogey team. She's like one of those bogey players for us. She tends to often score against us.
My problem with it really is just that it's, you look at the table now. I mean, Everton are now sniffing around that bottom place now. And especially with Liverpool winning. But like I said, Liverpool have played this season like, everyone's going, they didn't deserve to lose that or whatever, or they maybe deserve something out of that game. They played quite well. Whereas Everton have basically just gone there and just stood there and just tried not to get beaten every week. And so I think that's, I'd hate to go and watch a team like that every week. And I think that's part of the fans' frustration.
But we're not doing something dissimilar in a certain way. We're not employing a low block, but we are sitting there going, we're not going to score 5 goals. So we need to keep tight at the back. We need to make sure we play well and create opportunities. It's just that obviously we were the ones who scored in this game. And I think our defense, although we're not in a low block anyway, our defense is better. I think that's what I mean. But I just think it's very negative football. That's my point, really. Yeah. No, I don't disagree. And I think, to be honest with you, all the teams around that, Liverpool, I think, were very, very negative. Maybe they've got a couple of signings in now, and they've had a little turnaround in fortune. They might be a little bit more aggressive, but certainly, other teams sort of down there, Leicester are the same. We sort of bulldozed them, didn't we, at the Amex when they tried to do what they did to us last season, which was kind of low block counter, go a couple of goals up and then sit even lower and lower and lower. But yeah, I do feel a bit sorry for Everton, because I think if we had a player, if we had a striker, a very good one, and she kind of said, I'd rather go somewhere else and down sticks to a certain extent, it's her right. But I think I would feel slightly aggrieved about that as an Everton fan.
I agree. I think that's just abysmal. And I've seen a lot of people on TikTok, because women's football tends to have this, but she shouldn't be forced to do this. She shouldn't be forced to. Like, you got a contract, love. You are happy to sign it. And you're happy to take the wages when you wanted your step up. And now you've got an opportunity to get another step up. You want to go. That's the truth of it. You've had the opportunity for another step up, in her opinion, and she wants to go. And Everton are quite rightly saying, well, we've got a contract, so you can go, but we want paying. And we want what we think you're worth, or what it's going to cost us to replace you. So if the club that she's going to is sitting there thinking, well, if we get her to go on strike, we'll get her for free, I think that's disgusting. I think that's absolutely disgusting in this day and age, when women's football is trying to grow as it is, when the top 4 teams already have more money than they know what to do with, and the rest of us are scraping the barrel for whatever players we can get when we can, to then kind of almost hold a club like Everton to ransom so you can raid their best player. I think that's just despicable. And I think she should just knuckle down and play football. She's played for them. That's her contract. If the other club want to come in and pay the money for her to go, she's got a question to answer. Until then, be a professional. Because like you, I would be absolutely disgusted if one of our players did that to us.
And she also, I mean, she signed a contract extension last year as well.
Yeah,
yeah, for 3 years.
She's arguing that she was forced to sign the extra year, and that meant that basically Everton would let her go if she had a contract and they could get money for her. Well, that's what's happening.
Yeah,
they're letting you. They are prepared to let you go, but they're not letting you go for nothing. They're not letting you go for a cheap hold move. You know, they're saying we know what you're worth, and that's what we want. If Aston Villa have just paid $4,500,000 for their player that they've picked from Chelsea, Everton are quite within their rights to ask for $500,000 for Gago. As simple as that. That's the going rate.
Yeah, and I think that is the going rate. You know, we've seen that. You know, I don't know if they've announced what Vangenheim costs, but I should think it would be at least that. And you know, at the end of the day, Gago is probably playing in an arguably a better international team or a similar level of international team, and has actually scored goals in the WSL, not necessarily prolifically, but you know, in a better team, you'd certainly argue that she'd score more goals. And I sort of feel like if she was on the pitch you know, like if we had certain players on the pitch or had signed a striker, if she'd have been on the pitch on Friday, it could have been a very different result.
Yeah. And you know, if we all look at you know, if we support a men's team or whatever, you'd be absolutely up in arms if your player pulled that trick. Absolutely. And the media would be up in arms. There would be the headlines all over the place about how disgusting it was. Yeah, because it's in the women's game, for some reason, it seems that we can have empathy that the player doesn't want to be here now, so she should be allowed to go. Well, no, that's not how it works.
I think some of it, sorry, but I was just having a quick look. Some of it is that she was given a verbal agreement that she could go.
Yeah, and
now the club are changing their mind. So I can see it from her point of view. She said, "Can I go?" Her manager has gone, "Yes, you can." And then they're now saying, "Oh, but only if X, Y, Z." And apparently they won't talk to her agent, and it seems to be quite acrimonious.
Yeah, it's got to the point now where everyone's
it seems that neither side. I completely agree. If you've got a contract to play, then you should play.
Yeah,
but there seems to be some, you know, acrimony between the two, and there doesn't seem to be a clear sort of, you know, this is actually what's happening. And you know, it's like a lot of people have said about, you know, Fran going. If somebody said we want to buy you and the player wants to go, what is the club gaining by not letting her go? Because they're paying her to do nothing. So it does seem to be a little bit more knotty than perhaps Everton would have us believe.
I don't know. I think when you've signed a player like Gago, like we did with Fran, that's a top signing. That's you know, that's us saying we're taking this seriously, and that's what Everton did with that signing. And so for them to just for her to be able to just say now, well, I don't want to play here anymore, I want to go, and they've said, yeah, you can, soon as somebody gives us the money we want.
Yeah, it's not like she wants to go back to Nantes either, is it?
No, she wants to go PSG.
It's PSG, and it's not like it's a small club coming. It's a very
she's not just going home because I'm homesick.
Incredibly rich.
Taking the next step up the ladder, and that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. It's your ambition.
Yeah.
But you have to have the common sense to say, well, if I do this, it's going to be only because somebody's paying for me. That's my job. I get paid to leave.
I think if you look at it as hypothetical, you could see something like this. I mean, I don't think it will happen with Chia, but let's apply the same principle.
Yeah.
Arsenal come in at the end of the season and say, I know you've got 3 years left on your contract, Chia, but we want you to sign for us. You know, what do Brighton say? Oh, Brighton have said I can go, but they want £1 million. And Arsenal says, well, we don't want to pay £1 million. We only want to pay about like 400,000. And then Chia said, all right, I'm not playing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Chia would say this. I don't think she would. I don't think it's in her nature from what I've seen of her. No. But let's hypothetically it. We would be absolutely fuming if Brighton turned around and said, all right, 400,000, see you later.
Absolutely.
We would be absolutely fuming because that £1 million or whatever it is is to go to us to compensate us for losing that player. And actually, I don't even know if £1 million could compensate us for losing Cheer, to be brutally honest with you.
And I totally get Everton saying, well, fine, don't play then, because this is a World Cup year.
Yeah.
If you want to be in your French squad, you need to be playing. So that's your choice. You either get over this and play like you've agreed to do when you signed your contract, or you find a way for PSG to pay the money. It's either or, isn't it?
And I never think it works that well for the player. But anyway, because they get a reputation. You know, people, Brighton men have players like Trossard and Caicedo, and they're not appreciated by the club supporters. I mean, I think Caicedo maybe in the future a bit more once people sort of, time is a great healer. But Trossard, for certain, he forced his way out of the club to get a move to Arsenal. And, I mean, he's booed from pillar to post when he comes back to us. And he will be forever known as a turncoat. And I don't blame the fact that other clubs have not come in for him, even though he's peripheral at Arsenal, because I'd be forever asking myself, when's he going to turn his back on us? So I think it doesn't help the player. I think the best thing for Gago to do would be to play, show her commitment to Everton, and say, look, you've promised to sell me if the money's right. I'll carry on playing. I'll do as well as I can. I want to help Everton. Blah blah blah, and then we'll just revisit it. As soon as someone comes up with the money that you want. That's all she can do, really. But I can understand them not wanting to play her. It's a dangerous precedent to a certain extent. You don't want multiple players saying, well, I'm guaranteed a game anyway, so I'll just kick up a fuss about something XYZ, and then kind of being still rewarded by being able to be a part of the team. And so I think eventually it will probably come to a bit of a head. I think one of two things will happen. Either she will not be bought in this transfer window and she says, I'm very sorry. What I will do is knuckle down, play for Everton for the rest of the year, and then we'll see how it goes. Or she gets sold and Everton get the money. So hopefully in either situation, it all comes to a head. But, I don't think, sadly, I would say that, Brighton could be interested or would be interested. But I think sounds like she's got her heart set on a trip back to France and
well, I mean, Brighton's nearer France than Everton, isn't it? So
yeah, and if the reported fee of like 500,000 is anything to go by, then I don't think Brighton will be in that race.
It's not going to be right. It'll probably be more actually because we're in the WSL, so it'll probably go up.
Yes, exactly. That's very true.
I think we should just point out to Arsenal, Cheer is not available.
Yeah, Cheer is not available. No, not unless you've got stupid money. Not unless you've got stupid money. So yeah, she goes up and up. Every clean sheet she increases by 250,000. She's got 4 so far, so she's at 1 million.
Yeah. Speaking of clean sheets, drags back to the game. I think a lot of the reasons why we only did only win 1-0 was Courtney Brosnan, because I think she's sort of foiled us before on many occasions. I mean, she's the reason they don't get beaten 18-0 every week. Really, the saves she makes, but
they are in trouble.
The sort of positioning and that sort of stuff that she does, kept them in the game. And it was also, again, I see it's partly me wondering about negative tactics, also their injury situations and things. Obviously, they lost Karen Holmgaard to an ACL, didn't they? But Ruby Mace at centre back, I can't get my head round. I mean, she's quite good at it.
Notice her playing, to be fair.
Yeah, she's quite good at it, but she's one of the best sort of young midfielders in the country. And I mean, if we keep saying why on earth didn't we sign her? Because her and Maisie together in the midfield would be, an awesome combination. But I sort of think, she surely would have been better used somewhere else, and they might have had a bit more attacking teeth if Ruby Mace hadn't been in defence. So it's strange, really.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a situation of they've obviously felt that they would be. I think she's probably their best defender as well as their best midfielder.
Yeah,
so it's sort of the situation of better than not better the devil but do you know what I mean? Like which position group is going to be more negatively affected by not having her? But again, I thought she had a good game, and I think from the perspective of she was playing central defence, it's quite good that you don't notice her so much. I mean, I did notice her because I was trying to sort of keep an eye on her to see what she was doing. And
well, I think it's because I was looking for her in midfield and she wasn't there.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, the goal was absolutely nothing to do with her, and she was quite good at playing out from the back. But no, you're right, Ben. It nullifies some of her strengths. Being that sort of dominating force in midfield, and that might be why, to a certain extent, when I'm talking about our midfield kind of not necessarily standing out, I don't think theirs did either, because it wasn't at full strength, because Ruby Mace was playing as a centre back and not, a kind of defensive midfielder number 6 type player. So that is interesting. I was going to come round to all of you a little bit just on the subject of Ulaug. Because we haven't seen her yet. So I tell you what, I'll start with Abby on this one. Do you think there is a reason that she's not in the team at the moment? Well, I mean, obviously there is a reason, but what would you posit that reason to be, do you think?
Nope. Sorry, I was muted because the dogs have seen a fox. Being very excited next door, so apologies for that. I have no idea. I hope it's a good reason, but I just don't know. We've got Yele, and I'm glad we've got Yele, but she's obviously on managed minutes. But that's twice that we've got very excited because we've seen Ulaug warming up and running around, and she's doing some very impressive things, and then she's sitting on a bench for 90 minutes, 45 minutes, then coming out, running around, looking very impressive, and we all maybe we'll get to see her, and then another 45 minutes. So I just don't know. I sort of think, what's the point of signing extra players if we're not going to do anything with them? I mean, again, we didn't make all that. We made 3 substitutions from 5. I think it's 5 here, isn't it? So. We've got players that are running around potentially more than they need to. The only thing I can think of is that we are up by such narrow margins, because although we beat Nottingham Forest 2-0, it was 1-0 for a majority of the second half. I think we scored a goal and then the whistle went. So all I can think of is that it is a better the devil. We know this team and we don't want to rock the boat by bringing her on. But at some point, you've got to bring the girl on, because otherwise you're going to get players looking and going, oh, if I sign for Brighton, can I sit on my backside and do nothing for several games? It doesn't strike me as being very good for recruitment. And I would quite like to see what we've got and get her on and see what she's about. So fingers crossed again. If she doesn't play on Sunday, then I really, really will get worried. That maybe they're not seeing in training what potentially they saw on tape, but you're never going to see in training what you can see on a match day. So let her get her boots on and get out there. But I can't think of any other reason than that. She's not listed as being injured. She doesn't look injured when we watch her warm up. I don't know. It's the substitutions in general are baffling me a bit at the minute, because we've got some very good players, Caitlin, Ulaug, who are not getting on the pitch. And at some point, we've got to have some rotation in defence. I mean, I know that Rachel came on for again. It was one of those things of we're taking somebody off at the front and putting somebody off the back. But I think it was essentially, Rachel went on and then sort of slotted in the back. But we're not giving our defence much of a rest. They're playing all 90 minutes when we've got a very, very good defender sat on the bench, and we've not heard that she's injured. So with Caitlin and with Ulaug, I don't know. I wish I did. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
No,
I don't know.
I think you're spot on. I think we're probably all along the same lines. Claire, what would you say, like as a fan perspective, though, the value of kind of, I don't want to say like bringing her on like almost for the sake of it, but do you think just to give the fans a bit of a boost, we need to see her, even if it's just for sort of 10 minutes or something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit like Abby. I just don't see the point What's the point of buying a player or bringing a player in January? You're just going to sit on the bench. Like, there was, you know, I'm like Abby, I'm baffled by a lot of the substitutions. You take Rosa off, who's on one side, and bring on Raki, who plays over this side, and make her go over there. Then you take another player off, so you bring Raki back over, and the player...
They took Charlie off, didn't they? Yeah.
Just take the player off and put the one on you want. It doesn't make any sense to keep moving them all around all the time. It's like they don't know what they're doing. How the hell are they supposed to ever gel and score a goal? And then, you know, you've got Rosa, who's having the best game she's had in a long time, gets taken off, fair enough. But then you've got Charlie gets to play 90 minutes knackered, like you say, run her socks off and bring Camacho on at 90 minutes. Like, why? We've already decided we're just going to nurse this 1-0 victory. We're not going to bother trying, because if you were going to try for a second goal, you surely would have brought Ula on and given her a go. Like, I just can't see the point. You've got, like you say, 2 extra subs you could have made. You could have took Nordam off, could have put her on instead and said, go on, have a go. Because by this point, we've tired the Everton defence. We've given them a run. We could have maybe done with having a couple of players that came on and just run their socks off. Now, Snowder comes on. She does that. She's all over the place. She's like that little busy little bug that gets in the way of everything, isn't she? She's so small you can't swat her. So she can do that. And then you've got McLaughlin, who's got speed. She was bombing it up and down the wing. Why would you not bring her on and let her have a go? It just didn't make sense. Nothing was happening for Maddie. Maddie had played the whole game and was run her socks off. Wasn't happening for her. You could have taken her off and given her a rest. There were so many things you could have done and given a couple of players a little run out, but chose not to. Chose to just nurse the 1-0 victory and hope that we didn't, you know, God forbid we had let one in the last 10 seconds of the game. You know, it's just, it's just baffling. It really is baffling. And it's been that way a few times. And I kind of always put it down to, it's because we haven't got a striker. There's, you know, either making a point or they're just, you know, trying to maneuver players around to save energy or something. I'm sure there's some really technical reason for why they pick the subs that they do and don't reason. But again, like Abby, I do not understand how Caitlin is on the bench. She's been one of our best players all season. I can't get it.
The only thing I can think of, and perhaps, as we've spoken about Ula, perhaps you could come in on this, Ben. The only thing I can think of with Caitlin is I feel like when she did play or has played, it was in a back 4. And I feel like the last couple of games, certainly since Christmas, we've played a back 3. And I wonder, I mean, it would seem a little bit picky to me to say that Caitlin can't play in a back 3. But I just wonder if that is the difference, because that's the only thing I can think of is that we're playing a back 3 with a kind of a left centre back in Manu, so that's kind of locked in. I think Moeka has to be locked in, and then they seem to prefer Charlie on the right of centre defence rather than Caitlin, or move Moeka across and put Caitlin in the middle. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I see. It's kind of a sort of 3/4, isn't it? Because Mo is kind of almost a left back sometimes. Yeah. And Charlie is almost a right back sometimes. So Charlie's sort of moving between being a centre back and a right back, and then Mo's sort of up the left and then sort of slots back. So it's quite fluid. Yeah, I mean, I think there's just 3/4 defensive spots sorted, and they've just decided that those are the best 3 at the moment. I don't think it's anything particular that Caitlin's done wrong. Certainly not on the field. And obviously, we talked the other week, didn't we, about the fact that perhaps she might have been a good inclusion against Rachel Daly when we played Villa. But I mean, I think basically that's just the ones they want to go with at the moment. And I mean, I should get a chance again, I'm sure. But as for Ulag, I think there's 2 things really. The first one obviously is that the Norwegian season, finished in sort of mid-November, and so she won't have, again, I don't know how many Norwegian lagers she had sort of between then and Christmas or whatever, but she might be a little bit jaded still. But then obviously thing he's playing for Tottenham, isn't she? And a lot of the Swedes have sort of slotted into their various teams and stuff. So, but also I think sometimes
think that they're fit enough to play 10 minutes.
Yeah, well,
I can play 10 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
But sometimes I think
we'll mention that to Chris, Claire.
Yeah, let him know. I'm ready to go.
Dario generally, and I think Chris Roberts as well, is quite reluctant sometimes to sort of change, sort of not necessarily a winning formula, but if the team's working, he doesn't sort of like to make substitutions for the sake of it. Because say you think, we're doing really well here, sort of half an hour to go, I'll take Moeka off and put Caitlin on. Suddenly the entire defence has changed shape, and they've got to get used to each other. And within that first 5-10 minutes, you never know, they get in behind you and score because you haven't sort of sorted yourselves out yet. So this defensive unit is working, so we'll leave it as is. And it could just be, well, if I bring, I know I can chuck sort of, I can chuck Carla on for last, for stoppage time again. I mean, a little Carla Camacho fan club flag out. Why not more minutes for Carla? But you can put her on there and she'll just make a nuisance of herself. And she almost created a goal scoring opportunity, I think, didn't she, in stoppage time? Whereas there's still, I think as Claire said, bringing on Ulau probably would have been maybe a swap with Nadina. And she was doing really well. So you think, well, we're not going to take Nadine out because that would disrupt things. And at the moment, she's keeping this tight and doing this and stuff. So we could give Olaug some minutes, but if we do, that might jeopardise what Nadina's doing. So I'll just leave it for now. And I think that the same was kind of true against Forest, in that we were only 1-0 up right up until the 92nd minute, weren't we? So there is quite often a sort of it ain't broken, don't mend it sort of thing with our substitutions. And I think just the fact that we had to keep it tight. Nadina was playing really well. She wasn't tiring. So let's leave it as it is, and we'll get through the game, and then maybe we'll play it next week.
I sort of wonder, just we'll close off on this in a minute and talk a little bit about the journey. But I sort of wonder if they felt that she couldn't give them the amount of minutes that they needed to put her on for Rosa, because to me, she's a left winger. That's where she plays. She's left winger, left forward. And I wonder if Rosa had perhaps been able to last 10 minutes longer, maybe they would have put Ulaug on. And then you sort of wonder if then having put on Raki for her, then Charlie starts to tire. You think, well, the replacement for Charlie is Rachel. So then we have to move Rachel back there and bring on Carla. So we've got someone up front sort of thing. Because obviously, we didn't have a striker per se at that point. So I wonder if it was almost like a sort of a waterfall of necessities rather than like a deliberate
that too.
Thing not to bring her on. But I just think it would have given. It was nice to win. It was great. The journey was good. We'll come on to that in a second. But it just would have been nice to sort of reward those away fans with a little. Yeah, you got to see her first. So I think just simply as a fan. Not analysing it too much. It would have been nice if she just got on for sort of a few minutes and we'd seen her run up. And down.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at some point, we've got to try her out because they can do all the training they want to until they're on the pitch. It's a different matter. And I really don't want to get to the point where we're putting her on because we've got to.
We're desperate,
because we're, somebody's got injured, heaven forbid, or we're losing or whatever. We are never going to be. I don't see. Put my neck out here. This season, I don't see us ever being in a position where we are 2-3 goals ahead and able to go. All right, let's give so and so a try. We are pretty much always going to be 1 goal up, 1 goal down, and that's where we're coming from. So at some point, they're just going to have to give the kid a go because, like I said, if you're trying to attract players in. This is not the way to attract them in. We've pushed up the table, but players want to play. Yeah,
and they want to see those that have been bought playing as an example, don't they?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the journey and the experience. Sorry, Ben. just for a few minutes.
Have a little
Well,
rest.
that's certainly right. I need to get myself organised.
That's true. We're going to find ways and means to get you on a few of these.
Well, he would have still had to have dealt with his own snack issues, wouldn't he? Listening to it on the radio. So
that's true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. So a little bit about the journey, and then I'll hand it over to maybe Abby can can do the snacks, and Claire can do the Atmos. We'll find out. But yes, it was a rather long journey, longer for some of us, of course. I think probably Claire had the longest journey.
Claire's always got the longest journey.
Always got the longest journey. Yeah, it's pretty much that hit, isn't it? So yeah, the coach left the Amex at 10. I think it was 10. Stopped off at Crawley for a pickup to pick up Tim. And one of the reasons we needed to pick up Tim, apart from anything else, we wanted him at the game, of course, but also he was offering a raffle prize of a match-worn Marissa Olislager's shirt
signed
that he'd also, taken to a game and got signed as well. So it was not only match-worn, but also signed by the player. He raffled it off towards the first leg of our journey, I think. The driver picked out the number, and we seem to have a bit of a knack in this family about winning official sort of competitions and draws. Some of you will know about Ruby winning Vicky Losada's boots. Well, it was me who won Marissa Olislager's shirt,
and he'll be wearing it on Sunday.
I'll be wearing it on Sunday, hopefully. Yes, I'll be wearing it as a vest of some description.
Glove, maybe.
But yeah, what a lovely thought by Tim. I don't know if he's still listening.
Thank you, Tim.
Charlie's saying rigged. Not rigged at all. Not drawn by me. Not handed out the numbers by me. So I just
I started up the next number up.
I know.
Yeah, and I was the one behind. So
I was sort of looking at my number, thinking, do you know what? I've got a chance of winning this.
Got a chance.
And I was actually genuinely sort of putting positive vibes out, thinking, I think I might win this. And I did. So you never know. That can just be how it goes sometimes, isn't it? So so that was a nice little interlude for the first leg of the journey. And actually, we made it up there in quite good time. I don't know what the exact sort of journey time was, but I think we got there, would you say?
About half 4, I think.
4:30, 4:45. Yeah, something like that, I think, was it? It was dark, but it was only just getting dark, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then we did the usual, went and kind of tried to find out. Claire did a great job finding out where we were supposed to go to meet the players off the coach. So
to be fair, me and Abby just basically got off the coach and started walking to see if you lot would follow, and you all did.
Yeah.
So then we thought we better do something about that. Then we better actually find out where we got to go.
But one day I am just going to get off the coach and walk in a completely random direction and see how many people follow me.
Well, I mean, that did happen at I think, was it the Arsenal game where Matt followed a person who thought he was me? He thought was me, sorry, for about 3/4 of a mile before he realised it was someone totally different. He'd gone in the wrong direction.
That's brilliant.
So it's easily done. I have offered to wave a flag, but like a sort of 18 to 30s holiday excursion type thing.
We might need
your
staff around or something like that. In the
exactly. So we sort of loitered on the pavement outside the ground and waited to be penned in by the stewards. Sort of it almost feels like a little bit of an in joke, doesn't it? They kind of come out and they put the metal hoardings next to you, and you think, well, I could just take 2 steps to the side and get
just walk down that.
Like, you're not actually keeping us in here, are you? Sort of thing. So
it was a nice effort.
It was a nice effort, and I wanted to say, we can go into this a bit more, but I wanted to say how incredibly friendly and welcoming the Everton staff are.
Yeah,
the fans are as well. Don't get me wrong; they're lovely too. But the staff. We've been to a lot of grounds and we've encountered a lot of staff. Some of them are lovely, some of them are not so lovely. Some of them are just sort of ambivalent. They're just there to do their jobs. But I felt like every single steward we came across, every single staff member was happy to have a laugh and a joke and point us in the right direction, and all that good stuff. And I just wanted to sort of point them out and sort of say how incredible they were. So obviously we go into the stadium then. So Abby, enlighten us on their choice of snacks and beverages.
Well, speaking as a gluten-free person, food for me is always very limited at these places. And it was the same here because there was a really, really yummy looking sausage roll that Claire can probably update you on that I couldn't eat. There was, to be fair to them, they did have this Korean sticky chicken with rice that Claire also tried. And I think that would have blown my head off because it looked quite spicy. So I stuck with the nachos and cheese sauce, which is basically a bag of Doritos with some cheese sauce over the top. And it was so cold that they went chilly in about 5 seconds, but they were all right. The coffee was not bad. Not Broadfield bad, but not bad. The hot chocolate was 50% misnamed because it was hot. And that was about it. But to be honest, at that point in the game, I was so cold, I didn't actually care. I just wanted something to warm me up.
Hand warmer at that point.
Yeah. It was, yeah. And that was with and everyone kept saying, "Oh, you've just got to stir it. You've just got to." I could still be stirring it now, and I wouldn't have magicked up any more chocolate in it.
Yeah.
But again, the everyone who we had anything to do with was just lovely. Behind the counter. So snacks, not the greatest. I think Tottenham are still winning for me because their nachos were just huge and delicious and out of the world. So they're still top of the table for snackage. But and it was a bit pricey. It was a bit pricey.
Yeah. I'm just going to interject before we go on to Claire for Claire's thoughts because you mentioned the words hand warmers. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Claire and Abby had hand warmers for days. You do not want to know where they were putting these hand warmers, put it that way. Yeah. If you can imagine a place to put it, they almost put it there and then put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, Claire, do you want to elaborate?
And they did nearly sort of. We worked out if you put the two of them together, it sort of magnifies the effect, and they sort of start expanding a little bit. So yeah, it was great fun on the way back.
Yeah. Claire, what did you make of it all?
Yeah, I mean, it was lovely to go to Goodison Park. It's one of the stadiums I've never been to because obviously, I support Liverpool men's. I've been to Anfield a few times. I've never needed to go to Goodison. It's not the sort of place you can get tickets for when you're a Liverpool men's supporter. So it was an interesting experience to see it. I think it is of its day. It could probably need a bit of help to maintain it a little bit, but they're working with what they're working with, and clearly it's bigger and better than what they had in terms of capacity and stuff.
But hard.
It's quite sad that it's all a bit closed down and seats removed and covered up, and but I liked it. I like those sort of grounds. It kind of is a bit nostalgic for me, having been to lots of Oxford United away and things like that. You go into these grounds and you're just like, yeah, it's shit, but we love it. It's just great. And yeah, I think, like you say, the food, it's weird. I don't know when this started in football, but for me, you go to football, it's pie and chips. Yeah. I want a pie and I want chips on the menu. You can add anything else you want to it, but there should be pie and there should be chips. And there wasn't. There was a sausage roll, which was quite pretty good. I'd say it was the size of a general forearm. It was pretty
quite
big.
girthy, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was quite hefty. It was very tasty, and it was warm. So it was all doing all the good things. I did try the chicken Korean, whatever that was. It was okay. Probably needed a bit more seasoning, but I'm not fussy. You're at a football game, so you eat what you got. But yeah, a bit pricey. Hot chocolate. Yeah, less said about that the better. And but other than that, it was lovely. We had a lovely day, and we had all our food on the coach as well, and it was a nice journey. And I think it took us about 6 hours there, and probably not much. It was a bit quicker going back, I suppose. What time did we leave? 9:30. Back by 3 a.m. It's a long day.
We had a much shorter stop on the way back, though.
Yes,
we stopped for 50 minutes on the way up and about 15 on the way back.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's not for the weak, but it is fun. And it's a bit of a giggle, and we're all sitting there making up songs and talking about how we're going to make the noise and stuff, because we wasn't allowed to have our drums, so we had to improvise with banging chairs and things and just being really loud. And it was good fun as usual. And like I say, it's nice to come back with 3 points, because that just makes that journey home just a little bit nicer, and everyone gets on the coach in a really good mood. And there was a little sing song, and then they all fell asleep, the lightweights. So other than that, it was all lovely.
So
what did you think?
I had a lovely time. I just thought everyone was really lovely and friendly.
You won a shirt. You didn't care.
You didn't care.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just admiring my shirt. Yeah, I had a really good time. I didn't buy any food or drink. I'd had a little sandwich before I went in, so I probably got the best end of the deal, really.
Yeah, you might have done right there, mate.
Yeah, I think so. What we'll do is, I think we'll close off this little section, just talking a little bit about an experience that Claire and I had after the game, which I thought was very nice. Abby, we're not sure whether she wasn't around or hid, but
she didn't.
We're not quite sure. Yeah, we're not quite sure. She disappeared at this point. But essentially, Susie, a very nice woman who travels with us to some of the away games, came running over to me saying, Duncan, there's a big SheGulls fan over here. To be honest with you, I actually thought she said seagulls at the beginning. So I just sort of thought, well, we're all quite big SheGulls fans, aren't we? After she was sort of saying, "Oh, come over here," it sort of all fell into place, and I was like, "Oh, this would be cool. Get to meet a SheGulls fan or whatever." Beckon me up the steps, and it turns out that the big SheGulls fan was a little lad called River, who apparently listens to the SheGulls podcast. I don't know if it was every night, but most nights before bed.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I looked at his mum rather strangely when she said that, because I think the implied inference is it sends him to sleep.
We're that bored.
She was like, no, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. Yes, what a lovely little boy. Big into his football. Supports the Albion because of his mum is from down here, I believe. Susie ran, and credit Susie, she ran, found Claire came up. We had a little chat with them both for about sort of 5-10 minutes, and finding out about some of River plays football and has done for a while, so finding all about that and everything. And then I thought it was rather nice that he wanted a photo with us. Which I think, Claire is a superstar author, so she'll have been asked before. But certainly from my perspective, and certainly from a SheGulls perspective, I believe the first time we've ever been asked for a photograph or autograph or anything, not that we did autographs, but anything related really to SheGulls.
Yeah.
Well, there was that one that Charles Haley wanted with you, wasn't there?
That's true. Yeah. He'd heard he'd heard I'd had 5 bowls, but it was 5 bowls of chips, not 5 Super Bowls, unfortunately, unlike him. But yeah, apart from the fact it was lovely and River was such a nice young chap, we wanted to give him a shout out and say talk about him on the podcast a little bit. I hope he doesn't mind. I hope he's not too embarrassed. But also say what a lovely thing that is for us, to experience, because we don't always have millions of listeners. I don't think I'm breaking the fourth wall by telling people that. So it is lovely when people come up to us and take an interest, or they have listened to the podcast or anything like that. So I'm not begging for praise, but if you do see any of us or some of us together, we do often loiter around together. In a non-suspicious situation. Do come up and say hello and tell us if you listen to the podcast, and as long as you've got good feedback, we're happy to hear it. Claire, I'm sure you've got something to say on the topic of River. What were your sort of feelings about it, and how did you find it?
Yeah, I mean, like you, Susie just came up and was like, "Oh, there's a big SheGulls fan. Can you come and say hello?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then you're greeted like this lovely little boy, and it's like, "Oh, how cute," because you just, I just assume, you know, it's grumpy old men and people that go on the coach that listen to us. It's not lovely little kids. Do you know what I mean? Like listening to us waffle about football. But yeah, how lovely. Just absolutely fantastic. And yeah, he listens to us and goes to sleep. And quite frankly, River, you should be in bed by now. Probably time
go to bed, River. Also, no laughing at Claire saying the S word earlier.
Oh,
all right. We've heard that you think the swear words are funny. Yeah.
Apparently swear words are funny, but I didn't swear on purpose.
It just slipped out. Right. So I think we'll wrap this the part 1 of the SheGulls podcast up by saying go to bed, River. Listen to part 2 in your own time later this week on audio, and we shall see you all there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.